Uh-oh.
Hey, speaking of which, Jeff, I guess you aren't posting these, right? You don't.
I don't know how to, or I
Okay.
don't have
Okay.
access or whatever, but I
Yeah.
am,
Well, I,
hopefully they're being recorded somewhere and Bill can post them, but
I noticed we weren't nominated for a Grammy.
You did notice
Yeah.
that.
We were, but we got beat out by Jimmy Carter.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, too bad.
Who are those, 8 of us?
Next year. I mean,
Yeah, I think this is a-
we're
We're
a
just-
castle on our head.
We're just missing
Yeah,
Bill.
there
We
you
don't
go.
know where he is.
Househead.
House head, yeah.
Bill?
Who? Bill.
Bill's the only one missing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
we're just
got-
Hollywood squares these days.
Well, okay.
He has an
I asked you
excused
guys
absence.
to watch Three Identical Strangers, a 2018 movie. It was released in January of 2018 at Sundance. Somebody picked it up, and then it was released to theaters in June of 2018. It tells the story of three identical strangers who discovered each other kind of one at a time around their 19th year after being separated at birth. It follows their lives post finding each other to one's untimely demise, and kind of sheds a little bit of light on the dark secret of the Jewish placement agency and a psychological study by Dr. Neubauer that we learned just a slight bit about. But I thought it was really interesting when I watched it, in that the first 20 minutes watching the rapture as they rediscovered finding each other. And then you looked at your clock and you said, wait a minute, there's another hour and a half of this. Something else is going to go on.
Jeff, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It did 13 million worldwide on screen, cost between, all I could find was between 1 and 4 million. I don't really know who they had to pay to do this. Obviously, the two living ones and probably the widow of the third one.
I'm curious if they got a piece
Huh?
of the action. I'm curious if they got a piece of the action.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure they did.
And the movie kind of develops down to a nature versus nurture discussion. So Karen is ready for that one. But
I can't wait to hear. Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty interesting short movie. If you watched it on Tubi, it made it a lot longer. Sorry about the commercials. It was also on Canopy and maybe Hoopla. I'm not sure. But
Had
anyway,
you seen it before?
What's that?
Had you seen it before?
No, I had not. It was a listicle that I found of documentaries, and it seemed interesting. And I watched a couple, and I liked this one the best. And I'm glad I watched it. I mean, I enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy it. But that first 18 to 20 minutes when they locate each other is just amazing. Really happy time. And then to see what went on really up beginning at the restaurant Triplets
Right.
and on beyond, and then learning about the Neubauer thing and the Wise connection. That was just kind of troubling.
I watched it, I don't know, maybe soon after it was released, and I told Joan, I'm not sure I remember these three identical triplets getting together, but then something happens, and I remember the back half of the movie, and sort of like everybody else, like, oh, hey, this is, and they all end up on Phil Donahue and the Today Show, and they open a restaurant, and then the bottom falls out.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten the dark side, but was a fascinating, the things that had to occur for them to find each other was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But the whole reason I'm alive today is to hear Karen's take on this.
I have many pages, so I don't know. I guess you get tired of it.
Go
I'll
ahead,
stop.
Karen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, the whole, I saw it after it came out and was fascinated by it because I knew a lot. You know, my background, my training and my background is in developmental psychology. So behavior genetics, and that's what this kind of a, Neubauer and study and other twin studies. We use twin studies and adoption studies to look at things like heritability. What percentage of certain traits are environmentally determined versus those that may be, genetically determined. And so I was fascinated with it and, watching it from that perspective. The Neubauer twin study is really famous. Although the University of Minnesota's twin studies actually is a much larger, bigger, has a much bigger sample size and all.
Isn't that the
triplets-
knock on this one, that the sample size is only like 12 sets?
Yeah,
10
Neubauer's is not quite. Neubauer's was earlier though, but and it was a twin study, so that these triplets were kind of an anomaly. Well, it's how rare are identical triplets? The short answer is very. So it was primarily a twin study that and then the idea of twins raised separately is just, of course, fascinating from an intellectual perspective. But as this movie kind of points out, it's emotionally and ethically, there's some big issues there. But think about, looking at the question of heritability is you just have to be really careful. Behavior genetics is just a single strand out of, many of the different fields of psychology. And the main question is how much? And generally heritability is something that you look at not in individuals, but in groups. And so the danger is that you get into stuff like eugenics, like, oh, we need to prioritize these, the master race that this whole idea of, well, do you guys remember in the mid-90s, the book, The Bell Curve?
Mm.
Yeah. And, in looking at intelligence and what extent intelligence is, there's the heritability of intelligence. And again, you can look at that individually, and sort of, just anecdotally, but when you look at it in groups, you sort of get into it gets political, sort of are people, do people benefit from an enriched environment? Developmental psychologists, like myself, would say, fuck yes, but behavioral, genetics would say that, it's much higher percentage of it is in our DNA, and so you get into the question of, well, so which races have, are the most intelligent, and then the value judgments that kind of go on top of that. But there's also this, again, I'm being nerdy, so just, give me one of these. Like, stop it. The twin studies, like, the monozygotic twins, identicals, versus, dizygotic twins, fraternals. And, what we see when you compare those groups, then you really get to see, things that will vary in the, the DZs, the dizygotics, the fraternals, that don't vary nearly as much in the monozygotics, the identicals, which tells you that its chances are, and I say chances are, that it's in the DNA. But remember, with identicals, there's also just a lot of things that the choices that they make are very similar. So, they've had, those shared experiences, those shared environments, and to what extent is that still an environmental
Even
effect?
when separated.
Right. I know. Yeah, that's the fascinating part of when they're separated, and then you look at that. It's like now you didn't, you had different parents, you had different schools, you had different friends, you had different communities, and then you look at the ways in which, and interestingly enough, what we see on monozygotic twins is personality-wise, even when this one was raised by, abuse or not, but neglectful or strict, stern parents, and this one was raised by, in a very enriched and open and they still have very similar personalities. They'll even have, very similar kinds of just reactions to situations that you would not expect, given the very different ways in which they were raised. So,
Now, Karen, was Neubauer's twin study Jewish oriented as
yes,
well?
that's because he came out of NYU and he worked with the Jewish, I don't remember the name of it, but the adoption agency.
Yeah,
The
right.
Minnesota, the
Louise
interesting thing,
Wise,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Louise Wise Adoption Agency was the name of it.
Oh, yeah, Louise
Mhm.
Wise. There's like a play, I can't remember where it is in the country, where there's a big, like a big gathering of twins every year.
Mm.
And now like groups that want to study twins go there and try to, to recruit twins for their studies. University of Minnesota, like I said, they have a much larger sample size and they've been doing it for a lot longer, so they can look at it, generationally as well, longitudinally.
Twin Cities.
Oh,
Da-da-da.
say that.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's where, people of many different religions and backgrounds and races and that sort of thing. But interestingly enough, to nerds like myself, MZs, monozygotics, identical twins, while they are uncommon in human beings, they're largely unheard of in all the rest of the mammals.
Really?
Yes. And other interesting things. First, I have to ask, is anybody else besides myself left-handed in our group?
Me.
Oh, hey, no wonder we get along.
Because I held up in the right hand.
Left-handedness is at a much higher percentage in twins than in single births. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so we still don't understand why there are left-handers. We're only 10% of the population.
Right.
And has been the case across, geography, across races, across time, 10%, 10%, 10%. And of that 10%, 7 out of 10, so it's 7% or 70% of that of the left-handers are men. So us left-handed
Whoa.
women are even rarer.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is special.
I know. Although we tend to have like issues, we tend to have.
Wait a minute now. What are you going to tell?
Right. But yeah. Anyway, so, there's just a lot. Studying multiples is fascinating, but you just have to be really careful about how you use the information that you gain, from that. But,
I thought it was interesting at the end of the movie, the old lady, whoever she was, said that she felt like it supported nurture over nature. I don't know if anybody else remembered that part of it.
Weren't they implying that the one who killed himself was raised in a family that wasn't, I guess, especially loving or more strict or disciplinarian?
But yeah, that's what his dad said, that he was very strict and he applied it to
suicide
the
is
kid.
higher though in twins, in monozygotic twins, in identicals than it is in the general population.
Is
Suicide.
it usually
What
one of the
uncommon?
two?
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Is it usually one of the two, or do both?
That I
twins-
don't. That part I don't know. I don't know, but it is higher among twins than among single births. So is smoking. What else did I find out? Insomnia, higher among twins than among single births. And
Is anybody a twin here? No.
although some of us may be twins and we don't know it, because oftentimes especially with monozygotic twins, during that embryonic period, the 2 to 8 weeks of the second, not trimesters, but there's the germinal and there's the embryonic and the fetal. And the embryonic, we absorb our twins.
Kill off our twins.
No, we absorb them. We are still,
no.
yeah. They'll sometimes find things, during surgery or whatever on a person that suggests that there's a little part of some other person inside of them, and that's usually what that is.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Called a dermoid
And
cyst.
Chris, there's
Yeah.
a hypothesis that many of us left-handers are twins that ate our twin.
Really?
What did you say it was, Jeff?
It's called a dermoid cyst, and a lot of times it will have hair and teeth and other structures in it that are more or less fully developed. They occur a lot on the face. Kind of strange little things. It's almost like, oh, I found an Easter egg.
Or a second head.
Karen, I wanted to ask if anybody has drilled down into genetics deeply enough to be able to assign certain kinds of behavioral traits to a specific gene locus.
Generally not, is what I have read. We can sometimes see, sort of an interaction, or like, there's the, above the genome, epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can see the impact of environment on, turning off, tag markers, like especially for fetal alcohol, when, alcohol exposure in utero, alcohol will leave tags on the DNA or markers on the DNA that'll abnormally turn on or turn off a gene. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Has anybody done that 23andMe, any of the studies?
We've done
DNA?
ancestry.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
ancestry.
I did ancestry, but I didn't do the DNA. Did you find out anything,
did.
Gary?
Yeah,
Not
I'm part
me.
Egyptian.
I
Wow.
found out I'm
Really?
related to my mother.
What'd you have to give for that?
Well, actually, I found out some lineage information about where I probably have ancestry.
Yeah, I did as
Same.
well. But
Yeah.
Karen,
I don't trust that it won't be used against me. I won't do it. I don't want anybody knowing that I might have this percentage of Jewish or this percentage of Black or this percentage of some group that's now on the outs. And,
I am proud of my Egyptian heritage.
You walk like an Egyptian.
Thank
Jerry.
That make a great song.
I
me,
like
the-
Steve Martin. Can you do that Steve Martin thing?
Yeah.
To me, the back half of the movie tried to paint the study of the triplets as an evil endeavor, that they were separated and assigned to different families without the families knowing about it. But I don't know how you do that study and tell the different families, because then that soils the study. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, if you're trying to do that study and you want a pure look at how 3 different triplets in 3 different families turned out, you can't tell the families. And I know that there's another layer of this manipulation because it was 3 Jewish families and a Jewish placement system, and there's a whole nother level of what, putting people in lab rat situations as the Nazis did. But I think I could defend the study in that you can't tell the families that they're being studied, because the study then is no longer valid. And I was interested, and I'm, as an observer, to know how did 3 different kids and placed in 3 different families turn out.
But
I
that
don't know how you-
presumes the breaking apart of the triplacy was for a study, not for being raised in a loving home.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
that's a
The ethics of
whole
it.
different
Yeah.
look at it.
And the issue too becomes, well, and for any kind of research like this, or lots of different kinds of psychological research, especially, you have to go through, an institutional review board, an IRB, and there's not an IRB out there that would approve this study now.
Right.
Is
Because
that
there
right?
are things you can do, that are, in terms of research, experimental research, you can do. There are things you can't do. There are things you can't do experimentally, because experimental research, you need to be able to, randomly assign to the control group or the experimental group. Well, so for some things you can't randomly assign. You can't randomly assign age. So studies of age, differences between age groups, are always correlational. They're not going to be experimental. Same thing with sex. I can't randomly say, well, I'm going to do a study, and then, Gary, you're in the girl group. It's like, well, sorry, he's not, So there's certain things you can't do. There are other things you can do experimentally, but you shouldn't. They're not ethical. It's like, yeah, I
Right.
could experimentally take 14-year-olds and say, here, as much methamphetamine as you want all day, every day for the next 6 weeks. And at the end, I'm going to see how different you are from your peers that didn't do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's doable, but it's completely unethical. And so there's not an IRB, group
Right.
out. So if I want to study that, I gather information from
When-
like recovery centers where someone has sought, recovery, and take information that way. It's already been it's a done deal. I didn't
Right.
I didn't assign them to the experimental group.
When is it, was there an IRB for that
Yeah,
study?
I
yeah,
wouldn't
was
think
this
so,
actually-
because
I
in
doubt it.
81 they were in college. That's when they met. So that would have been like 19 or 20. So what were they born in, like
1965, right? Wasn't that
61.
like
61?
Okay.
Yeah. No, there was not, oh God, there's some studies out there. The Stanford obedience study. Do you guys know about that one? Holy. Yeah. That one would not pass an IRB now. And that was in the 60s.
That fell apart. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
But
the
Joe-
rhesus monkeys, the
Joan befriended someone in Kirkwood but she was somebody who was approached by people who wanted to find their adopted people who wanted to find their biological parents. And it goes back to the nurture versus nature over and over and over again. When she found somebody's biological parents and then found out that they had siblings, no matter where they were raised separately, different parts of the country, where they ended up was amazingly synchronized. They had similar careers. They had similar family dynamics. They had similar financial status. They had never met each other. They were raised in totally different homes, but the nature overcame the nurture in a huge number of those. And she was always telling us about, she found somebody and then found out somebody was the CEO of IBM and her sister was the CEO of Delta Airlines. And, it happened over and over again.
One thing I read in IMDb was that these three, actually, there were four. They were quadruplets and one died at birth.
Really? I didn't see that.
So how does that throw, a wrench into what was going on?
I bet identical quads are even less common than triplets.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's more multiple births now than ever, especially with all the
Fertility stuff.
aided fertility stuff. Yeah, but they're not monozygotic. They're not identicals. They're they're DZs, MZs, and DZs. Yeah.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to split the embryo or the zygote at an early stage to see if they could do that.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Day could come, but not so far.
I wonder who had the initiative to make the movie. Do you think it came from the boys and they said, we have a hell of a story to tell and we think it could make millions of dollars?
According to Wiki, it just the director had seen it, the story, and he just thought it was a good story to tell. Relatively
about
easy
the three of them
start.
getting together, or about the dark side of the study?
The way I read it was the easy part. Again, the first 20 minutes was an easy story, but he was also aware of the Neubauer study and all the recording of the twins and triplets at the different families and whoever was doing that research. I don't know. I guess that's just something caught a movie maker's eye.
I got
They
20
did get
minutes.
a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
They were all over the place. Sorry,
Yeah,
Carrie.
they were.
That's all right.
And so cute. And they were already in a movie. Remember with Madonna? They were in that movie. I mean, yeah, I could see how anybody that saw how popular it was with all those shows would try to make something out of it. It's just continue that that popularity because it is such a great story. You know, it is so, especially the first, like you said, Mike, the first part, it's so kind of uplifting. Oh my God, these guys get together. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't really care that much that they were separated. They were together, and that's all that seemed to matter, at least when they were 19. That's all that mattered. They were together, they were brothers, and it didn't matter to them, you know, how they were raised or what, you know, it just didn't seem to be that important at that point. Later on, of course, as they've gotten older, you can see it made a huge difference, but at the beginning, it was just we're together now, and that's all that matters. And it
And
did.
it's
I'd be curious in the timeline of the making of the movie where the brothers' suicide. What did they start?
Right.
And then that happened, or did he know about that and knew that this story had, you know, a dark twist to it?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It gives new meaning to the word "find yourself."
Yeah.
Well, the circumstances that had to occur for them all to find each other was,
So amazing.
you know,
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Just going to the
Showing
same
up at the
college.
same college. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Driving that old Volvo and cramming two of them into a phone booth to call the other one, and find out that's his birthday and hospital he was born in. And I, you know, there's so little. There's probably only 2 minutes of movie, if that, about the birth mother.
Yeah.
They went in for drinks. The guy was a
Met
little
her,
shook
she
that
was
she
fine.
outdrank him, and that was the end of birth mother.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think this movie's kind of two parts. One is the happiness and so forth, but I think it was really a great vehicle for bringing up some of these ethical considerations about studies and about what we do and
Exactly.
don't do now. It's great food for thought in that area, and hopefully guidance for the future.
Yeah.
Karen and Gary, you had seen it before. Anybody else seen it?
Yeah, I
before?
had seen it before too, Mike. And had that
I only,
same.
I only remember the happy part. I knew there was a dark side, but I couldn't remember which. Why?
Probably
That's
a
your-
protective factor there, you know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that half full. Half.
We tend to
with the half
forget
full.
bad things.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Mahoney, did you like it or?
I thought it was real interesting. After the first 20 minutes, again, after I really sort of understood the premise behind the movie, I began to have, you know, some real ethical questions about what was taking place. And I kind of fall down where Karen's at on this is I'm not sure this sort of stuff should be banned by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not comfortable with it by any stretch of the imagination. and and the idea that these three individuals were separated and lived basically in the same communities or the same area, I thought was pretty odd as well. But I mean, my main take was I thought it was an interesting movie. I think I don't think the three triplets thought it up. I think it caught the eye of a director, and that's how it came to be. But yeah, the ethical questions that this raises
Yeah.
about this sort of work are huge, and that was my takeaway from it. I mean, really was, bordering on eugenics, I think.
Does the movie do enough to discuss that ethical premise in this thing, or is it just a blank sheet and here's what happened?
I don't think it goes far enough in it.
Yeah.
To me.
Didn't they say something about that Newberry test isn't going to be the actual results of it aren't going to be shown until I don't know.
Like 26.
2065.
Yeah.
A couple of
44
the
years.
postscripts in the movie said that they had been granted access to it, but
it was redacted or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no real conclusion either.
Right. Yeah. I can't understand how can they do that? Is that just something that as research scientists they can say, and we don't want these results told until then? I mean, I just don't understand how the people that were in that can't have access to what they were being studied. I mean,
I'm
they
trying
were
to
being
figure out the relationship between the hospital where they were born and the placement agency.
yeah.
Or were there multiple hospitals that were?
I think it would
Donna,
be interesting.
I think part of the answer to your question, how can they do it, is that basically what they're holding on to is their analysis, and that's their intellectual property. That's their, the data and the analysis. And all.
Intellectual
That's they can
property.
do with it what they want. They can say, we're destroying it, or they can say we're putting it in, I always call it time
Archives.
capsule.
I
It's
see.
not, but the future, future publication the thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that that may not be the full answer, but that's partly an answer
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you're wondering.
So if you had this documentary and you were getting ready to show it at Sundance or Cannes or something, how do you promote it as a research project gone bad, or do you promote it as, hey, three twins or three triplets? Is this it's two different movies, and which one do you promote to get people in the theater? The Phil Donahue, they're all together, they smoke the same cigarettes, they found each other, or the last hour of people kept secrets and held it over these guys' head. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking as a movie marketing person, which movie do you promote?
Well, I think the title promotes them both, and that's that's such a good title. Three Identical Strangers. Yeah, it was such it promoted both, I think, it's like.
I'd love to go back and see a trailer from whatever 2016 or whatever it came out to see, because it made money. I mean, they got people in theaters, And
I think you got to promote the happy part of it, because otherwise, I don't think anybody'd go see it. I thought it was an interesting movie, and there were aspects of it I enjoyed, but overall, I think it was a very sad movie.
So would you feel cheated if you paid your, 2016 $8 and thought you were going to see a family reunion and then walked out thinking, oh my God, they've turned these people into lab rats?
Yes.
I want my $8 back.
I think they'd market it as a dark story.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
It's a accident
the
of
old,
birth.
if you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to
Come
me.
sit by me. That's right, Mike. One of my favorites. Yeah.
I'm kind
There
of
was
with
a
Jeff
pretty good
Barker.
article in the New Yorker, but from a long, long time ago about the Neubauer study, like from '95, so way before the movie, about the Neubauer study and sort of the philosophical questions that twins, especially twins that were raised separately, and looking at how much free will do we have? Do we, we think, oh, I'm making these choices and
Yeah.
I'm sculpting my character and that sort of thing, but it's like, are you? Or is this just, in your, in that the chained little molecule of your DNA. If anybody's interested, I can, when we get our, this is what we talked about, email, I could
Well, he's kind of a
have
god
a
in
link.
psychology, isn't he?
Pardon me?
He's kind of a god in psychology, isn't he?
Neubauer?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like a lot of things, like, a lot of those horrible studies that you're like, oh my God, they couldn't do them now. But you look back and you're like, yeah, but it did tell us something, that we did get some information from that. But like I said, the Minnesota's study is so much larger, and it's on, it's been ongoing. We've got longitudinal aspects to it. We've, generational aspects to it. So theirs is much more prominent in terms of like when I teach, behavioral genetics, just as a, 15 minutes out of one class in intro to psych, but I'll talk about the Minnesota study, which I'm getting ready to do, by the way. So this was really well timed. Thanks, Mike.
It's really sorting out when it's okay to do certain kinds of things. And I guess it depends. You can't really ask your subjects if it's okay. Do you just forge ahead in the interest of science? And how far can you push that before it becomes untenable to yourself?
Right.
And really, that's what it amounts to. What does your own integrity tell you is okay or not? If you say, this is going to have such a profound result with an impact on humanity, I'm willing to push through this and come what may, because I want to establish this. You really have to believe in the importance of the study. If you can't say that, then I think it's really hard to justify something like that. But it's a quandary. I mean, there've been a lot of studies, as you pointed out, that have been just kind of questionable, or they were done before the IRBs were around, and people could just kind of do what they wanted to do if they could pull it off.
Kind of like the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think back to our
There
our
are some
Kinsey
studies
movie.
that are done, with, Kinsey. Yeah, there are studies that are done with it that do have some deception in them. But generally, what will be required of the design is that once the study is over, then post study, then everyone is informed of what the reason for it. This is what the deception was. This is why we did it this way. That sort of thing. There are a lot of good safety nets now. I believe in, I can, sometimes I shudder at, people are like, oh, you psychologists, you're just cold blooded, and we can be, and then but we're getting better. But I think that there are a lot of safety nets in place now that prevent that kind of abuse of power.
Yeah.
Like, the trolley thing, the question of the trolley.
What's that? The trolley.
Do you save five,
okay.
save one, sacrifice one to save five? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this study is the way people respond to, okay, so here comes the trolley. It's going to run over these 5 people unless you divert it to this other track, and it will definitely run over 1 person. So do you throw the switch? And most people will say, yes, I'll throw the switch. I know that I've saved 5, but I've sacrificed 1. Then the next question is, all right, so same thing. Here comes the trolley, or here comes, this is going to, it's going to kill 5. But in order to save the 5, do you have to sacrifice 1? And you have to shove him off the platform yourself. And people are like, I don't know. There's one thing about flowing. So it kind of goes back to the the Stanford obedience study where they couldn't see the victim, and they just kept turning. They thought they kept turning up the shock and where people were screaming. When it's in anonymous, we're able to do things that we can't do, that we won't let ourselves do when it's not so anonymous.
Or then you could torment the subject and say, okay, now the guy who's standing on the one guy is Gandhi.
Yeah.
Or it's your mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
relative. Yeah.
It's somebody you care. Yeah, somebody you care about. Who are those 5 people? Who did they vote for?
You're right.
Are they wearing red hats? Because I'm not.
Yeah,
throwing
there go. Yeah, we're not diverting anything.
I'm gonna call the trolley operators on to speed up.
The five have MAGA hats. We're going right for it.
Going right for it. Yeah.
Let's not post this one, Jeff.
Yeah.
Redacted that one.
Yeah. Elon will come after us.
Yeah. He probably knows already.
I don't know. We don't have much of a following.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris, did you
good.
enjoy it?
Good pick, Matson.
Yeah, it was.
I did.
Very interesting.
I
Good brain
wasn't,
exercise.
I wasn't happy, of course, with the way that it turned out, and watching the interviews with David and Bobby, and all of a sudden you realize there's only 2 live interviews going on. What happened to Eddie? And then find out later, it's like, okay, where is he? What did they do with him? And they keep showing shots of this hospital, which I assume is where he was.
Pronounced, probably.
Psychiatric hospital or something. So yes, I did like it. I think it's very sad. David Kellman's father said, had I known there were 3, I would have taken them all.
Yeah, I love that about him.
And they wouldn't have been split up and had so much trauma and psychiatric problems and whatever else they suffered through it. It's just a
It was
shame.
kind of sad because they all said they gravitated towards his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you wonder what there was, about that. Whereas the doctor, Shafran, Dr. Shafran, that was Bobby's, he didn't seem to really care. He didn't act like he cared. And then
He was busy
Yeah.
all the time.
yeah,
His
yeah.
profession took over.
And then Eddie's father was in the military
Yeah.
and very strict, very harsh, and not cool. But Kellman was a real down-to-earth guy, blue collar, whatever color, it doesn't matter. He was a wonderful man and seemed to have raised David right as far as when they were expressing what was going on. David was the most vocal and down to earth, I think. So
I thought in the interviews he came across that way.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Chris, it's your turn.
Who's got next?
It is. It is my turn. It is my pick. So is everybody ready?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to go clear back to November 1st of 2024 for this release. So yes, it is up for an Oscar, actually 2. And it's up for Best Original Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor. The pick is A Real Pain,
Oh, yeah.
Pain.
That's on Hulu right now.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix too, isn't it?
No,
Just
it's
Hulu.
on Hulu. If you don't
On
have
Prime.
Hulu, you can do a free trial at enough to watch it. But yeah, Jesse Eisenberg is the writer, director. He's the actor. He's the producer. Does a fabulous job. And then Kieran Culkin is his cousin, and they go to Poland in the wake of their grandmother's death to try to find out some information about her. They go on a Holocaust tour. It's funny. It's a little heart-wrenching in a few places. And yeah, it's up for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay.
And Kieran Culkin is up for an award.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
supporting actor, best
Yeah.
supporting actor. So there are 2 there.
Did Jesse write it? Did
Yeah.
Jesse
Yeah.
wrote the movie?
Yes.
I saw him
started
yesterday on a
theater.
Sunday morning show.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was CBS Sunday Morning or
It
something
was.
talking
Yes.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was on there. So I wondered how many of you might see that, but yeah, that's it's
I
pretty good.
saw it at the theater when it came out, and I know Bill did too, because Bill and I talked
Yeah,
about
I saw it
early,
too at the theater. Yeah.
Okay,
but
well,
I'll watch it again on Hulu.
you can see it again, I guess, unless you have
good.
some sort of memory that you remember everything. So yeah, that's what we'll talk about next week.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Has anybody
A
seen the
real
movie?
thing.
Has anybody seen the movie Here?
No.
No, the Tom Hanks one? No.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Well, it's different. Yeah.
HEAR or HERE?
HERE. And
It
it's
didn't stay around long in theaters.
Did it go to theaters?
Yeah. Briefly.
Oh,
Briefly.
okay.
Yeah.
Got Robin, Princess Bride, Robin.
Yes,
What's his name?
from Gump.
Yeah, and from Gump. Yeah.
Reunited.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting premise. It's about a location as opposed to a story. There's a story arc, but it's all about things that occurred in one location and the different people who passed through there. It's an interesting thing.
Oh, okay.
Joan just passed me a note that I have a call I've got to take.
Okay.
So
Okay.
anyway, it would be my bonus pick if you have the time and the access to it. Here is, I think is worth your time. Chris, I'll see
Thank
you
you.
guys, and I'll see you guys next Monday.
Next Monday, yeah.
Monday.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Thanks,
Yep.
Karen.
Gary.
Have you guys
Right.
seen the American the Revenant kind of thing on Hulu? American, it's very violent. It's about the Mormon Wars.
No.
Damn it. What's the name of it?
Primeval? No.
Huh?
There's
It's a
an
series.
The Mormon Wars here, or here meaning Missouri, as opposed
No,
to.
no, no. This is in Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did run into some trouble
American
here in Missouri,
Primeval.
didn't they?
That's what I thought
American
it was.
Primeval.
Yeah.
Or has anybody seen Paradise?
No.
Okay.
Do you recommend?
Paradise is probably worth staying with for a little while. There's only 5 episodes out so far, I think. It's Sterling K. Brown from
Oh, yeah.
This Is Us.
whatever it was. This Is Us. Yeah. This Is Us and a house fire and all that.
St. Louisan.
And he's also, and so is the guy who plays President Marsden is also a St. Louisan. It's kind of like what was that one with Channing Tatum, White House Down or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's it. But Sterling K. Brown is the executive producer, so I'm always a little suspect of movies where the star is the provider of capital, but it's worth a look for the first 5 episodes. But the American Primeval, I really liked. If you like The Revenant, it's a very violent movie, but it details the Mormons in 1857 in Utah.
Wow.
So I liked it. Anybody else got anything?
Well, I watched The Recruit. Anybody seen that? I think it's got 2 seasons now. It's that same CIA political spy, but it's pretty good if you like that genre. I did see Back in Action. It's just a silly, It's silly. Silly is gets the wrong word, but did anybody see it? No. Okay. It's just it's just about these spies that she becomes pregnant, so they quit, and then they're found out again 15 years later with their kids. So it's kind of that kind of a nothing, okay movie, okay, fun movie with other kids, with other teenagers and stuff would be kind of fun. What else?
Yeah, the clips look really lighthearted. I haven't seen it, but
It is. It's very lighthearted.
They can't get their story straight. The mom
Right,
and the
right,
kids
right.
are kind of figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah, the kids are way smarter and they're trying to, yeah. Yeah, it's cute. It's cute, Another one that's coming up again, and I've seen it before, but I really liked it, is called Lupin. It is subtitled because it's in French, but again, I think that's a really good one. So
Okay.
uh,
Anybody else got
Good.
anything?
I watched Michael Collins at the recommendation
you did?
of Jeff
Ah.
last week, just because I
Uh-huh.
wanted to learn more about Irish issues. So that was good.
What'd you think of it?
And I learned what was going on.
Yeah.
At least for that time period, I think the movie only went up to about the mid-20s when he got killed, but
Yeah.
they weren't really talking, at least in the movie, about differences between Catholics and Protestants, but maybe that came later. But
Well, no,
you know-
that's just real quickly. After the initial separation, there was a civil war among the IRA, and that's what the Michael Collins movie centers on, is the dispute inside of the IRA rather than the larger question of separation and the counties of Ulster and the Republic. So, yeah, it's a civil war in Ireland in that movie rather than the full separation between the Brits and the Irish.
right, there were the
The
people who
background.
wanted to be fine with the free state, and others wanted full independence. That's what
Exactly.
I understood. But
Mhm.
so
What's that on, Jeff?
actually it was free on Prime with subscription,
Okay.
and I think some other stuff too, but so
And it's Michael Collins?
Yeah.
mhm.
It's,
Liam Neeson plays the
Yeah.
head guy.
Of course.
Yeah.
like 2010, something like that.
Okay. Well, since Jeff didn't post this to the internet so that I could see it on YouTube and find out the recommendations, now I know. Okay.
It'll be there soon enough.
No, from last week.
Yeah.
We started
Yeah.
watching a series called The Pit, which has Noah Wiley in it as the senior attending in an emergency room. And I thought, really? I mean, he could never quite reach escape velocity from the emergency room. He's back there again. That does raise some interesting issues, and it's fairly accurate about some of the medical stuff. But it's those medical dramas can
Yeah.
drive you a little crazy. It's chaotic all the time, and it's kind of true.
Yeah. Can't think of any others.
People love those medical dramas, though. I mean, they go on for ER.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is a nice little.
Yeah.
There's a little part of it in there where he's sparring with the administrator, and she's coming up and saying, your satisfaction scores are too low. You've got to step up your game or we're going to fire you. And he goes like, well, the emergency room is always like, there are 3 days worth of people out there. We don't have any people. We can't send people from the emergency room up to the floor because you don't staff the nursing floors enough to get them out of here. And that's your problem. And so this is an age-old kind of thing. And the hospitals do hold back on paying nurses and that kind of stuff. And at the to their advantage to build a new building or something like that just can drive you crazy. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
All right, well, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you,
All
Joe.
right.
Okay, thanks,
You
Mike.
bet. Good
Thanks,
pick.
Mike.
Very
Good,
interesting.
good.
Yeah,
good
good
I
pick.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All righty,
You
take
guys.
care.
Care. Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.